Certified health and lifestyle coach. Tis the season to be jolly. Tis the season to be overeating also. I really should have probably done this video before Thanksgiving, but it's going to work because this is not just around the holidays. It can happen anytime. We tend to overeat. We don't plan to, but before we know it, we have eaten way more than we realize. So I want to talk about first 3 reasons why we do, and then also give some tips to help us to avoid it, to stop before we get started. So the first one is most of the foods that we overeat are processed foods. Have you ever walked by, say, a bunch of bananas in a dish and eaten 4 or 5? No, you don't even think about it. Those foods that are in their natural form, that are in their whole form, I guess, you don't overeat those. Those are things that you eat, you're satisfied, and you walk away. But now take away the bananas and bring a plate of cookies or donuts or a bowl of crackers or unlimited amounts of maybe pop. We go back and we go back and we go back. And those are those foods that are processed. And the fact is, those things our brain tend to gravitate towards. We're actually addicted to those things, those foods, those drinks. Are there some of those things that you have a hard time walking by? Put a comment. What are some of those things that you find yourself, if it's there, you're going to eat it? But again, those things are processed. And so the brain is trying to figure it out, and it takes time. We have hormones. We have tons of hormones throughout the body. But we have hormones in the body that tell us we're full, we're satisfied. But we also have hormones that say, I'm hungry, I want more. We also have hormones that are triggered by something called pleasure. And whether it's, a dopamine we get those rushes, when we hear that ding that we've got another text, or, just those types of things as we scroll through Facebook, we get that dopamine rush. Often if you're watching a game or something where there's something going and it's triggering the brain and there's pleasure and we want more. And so that's the hormone that is tied to those processed things. So when you see those potato chips, your brain is like more, more, more. Do you remember years ago the advertisement for Lay's potato chips? It was, I bet you can't eat just one. And you know why? Excuse me. They hire scientists who know exactly how the brain works. And so what happens? There are ingredients in those foods that are there for the sole purpose of making us want more and more, and to be a lifelong consumer, a lifelong customer. If they were boring, blah potato chips, would you buy them again? Probably not. But all that salt and sugar and oil, which is what's horrible for us, is also what gets into our brain, and we want more. The other problem is when we're eating these processed things, we eat entirely too fast. So again, we don't even give our brain time to realize, put on the brakes, you've had enough. So what do? We eat one after the other, and you lick your fingers and you eat more and more. Again, go back to that banana or that orange. You take a bite, you stop, you maybe talk to someone, you take another bite, you chew slowly, you set it down, you come back, you finish the banana. It might take you 10 minutes to finish that banana. You're not in any big hurry. You're eating it at a slower pace. So it digests. Your brain says you're satisfied, so you're done. On the other hand, think of when you're eating those processed foods. You barely look up to catch your breath. Again, I remember years ago, I used to love Cheetos. And I mean, it was just, and actually, if I'm not careful, it's that way with salty, oily nuts. Usually I try to get my nuts plain. because you're just going, and pretty soon your jaw is sore because you just kept on and kept on. That's because those foods, there are chemicals in there. When they're created in that lab, there's a scientist who knows exactly the things that trigger your brain to say, I've got to have more. And often it isn't until we literally feel almost sick to your stomach that you put on the brakes. And at that point, it's too late. So again, we're filling up and we're only overeating those processed things, okay? And then the other issue is we chew them too fast. And we've got hormones that are working, and they can work for you or they can work against you. So what are we going to do? Are we helpless? Absolutely not. So again, put in the comment, whether you're watching this on the replay, what are those foods that you find that you generally overeat? We need to identify them because so often we eat things mindlessly. Again, we are so concentrated on the food, we're not even paying attention to how many we're eating. So one of the things I suggest after recognizing these are the foods that I have an addiction to, and admit that it is an addiction, make sure you're not bringing those things into your home. Because let's face it, if it's there, you're going to eat it. So choose to have those things if you really want them. Choose to have it when you have to go out to get it. We used to eat ice cream after dinner every night for years. It's a long time ago. But one scoop goes to 2 scoops to 3 scoops, and then you add the syrup. So if it's there, you're going to eat it. But if you have to go out, then you've got to get in the car, drive there, pay for it, come home, pull in the garage, and then eat it. Chances are it's going to make you really think twice about that particular thing. But if it is something, maybe they're cookies that you've made, so they're healthier than store-bought, but still you know that usually you eat way more than you should. Make it difficult. So in other words, take the 3 or 4, then put the other ones away. If it's maybe chips or something, put it high up to where it's going to take a little bit of effort to get to it. Even with meals, sometimes there's a meal I prepared and it was so good. And again, there's that pleasure button that's been pushed. A lot of the times, I actually, after dishing up the plates, I go ahead and store the leftovers in a glass dish, put it in the refrigerator. Because again, it's going to get cold quickly. And so I'm less, I should say, likely to take the time to go pull it out, reheat it. By then, your brain has started to, some of that craziness has started to wear off. And in your right mind, you go, oh, never mind. That's too much trouble. Forget it. I'll have the rest tomorrow. And that's what we want. We need to take ourselves away from that, because as long as we've got that big bowl in front of us, we're going to continue to eat. So if it's ice cream, we have a freezer in the garage. Close it up. Use a small bowl, S-M-A-L-L, a small bowl. Fill it up, and then go put the ice cream in the garage, in the freezer there. So again, not that that's impossible. I mean, let's face it, you could go and get it, but it's going to make you have to stop and think about it. Because there again, when we are eating these addictive foods, our brain, trust me, isn't really working that well, because we're focused on that particular thing. The other thing is, like I said, choose to have those treats, if you want to call them that, when you're out. Because they're not going to bring more. If they do, you're going to pay for it. So they're going to bring that small little dish of ice cream, or they're going to bring that wedge of pie. You're not going to be able to get another one unless you choose to pay for another one. But again, use those principles and really stop and think. We often beat ourselves up. But on one hand, we are the victims, really. Because again, these companies are wanting customers for life. And so they're filling these foods, these processed foods. They're injected with all kinds of stuff. And I know some of you are going, oh, she's way over the top here. But trust me, that's why we find it so hard to just eat one. So put in the comments, think about it. What are those foods that you have an honest weakness for? And begin to think about, is that something I want to be eating? Because the fact that they've done this tells us they're really not good for us. You know, I don't like using bleach, but I do have bleach, but I use it very, very carefully. I use it in very, very small amounts. There are those things in the world that we don't necessarily like, but we have them, but we're careful with them. And that's how we should be treating a lot of these processed things. And especially as we go into the holidays, you're going to be invited places. Maybe it's all of the stuff that's at work. You know, everybody likes to bring in all those goodies. We just got a package in the mail just last week from Harry and David, and it's, you know, chocolate malt balls and, you know, white chocolate pretzels, and it's filled. But as long as it's not opened, we're good. Consider maybe sharing those or keeping those for special occasions so you're not eating at all. And again, when you choose to do these things, think about the other things that you're eating. Don't eat this ginormous heavy meal and then turn around and have ice cream. So again, it's about making some good choices. I'm not saying we can't ever indulge in those things, but let's do it wisely. Let's not do it just spontaneous. Let's plan for it. Let's be slow. Let's take it easy. Instead of handfuls, let's use that small bowl, that small plate, and let's make good choices as we get closer and closer to the end of this year. I want you to be safe. I want you to be healthy. So again, let me know, what are those foods for you that you tend to overeat? More than likely, it's not carrot sticks, it's not a banana, it's not any of those things, because our brain knows and connects and says, you're satisfied, so stop. The other foods, we're wired, if we eat those things, to eat more and more and more. So now you know, so what are you going to do about it? So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Take care and God bless.